Peninsula Development Corporation to be held today, December 11th, 2024 at 8:30 a.m. at the McNeese Convention Center, South Meeting Room 501 Rio Concho Drive, San Angelo, Texas, for the purpose of considering the posted agenda items. This meeting is hereby called to order. Will you bow your heads with me, please? Father God, we come to you today humble and appreciative of the opportunity to serve. We ask that you guide our conversations, that they may be pleasing in your sight and beneficial for the community that we serve. We pray all these things in your most holy name. Amen. So I will ask at this point if we have any public comment registered, Nora?
Yes, sir, I do. Those comments are actually under regular agenda, so when those items do come up, I will let you know.
Okay, very good. Issues or items that are not on the agenda may be raised by the public at this time if they are so registered. Citizens should speak from the podium, begin by stating their name, limit remarks to less than 3 minutes, and board members may request that a discussed item be placed on a future agenda. The board takes public comment on all regular agenda items during the discussion of those items. We
Rick.
will consider.
I'm sorry. Apparently, he does want to make a comment during public comment.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay.
Come forward.
Jamal Shumpert, single member District 3.
Thank you.
Jamal Shumpert, single member District 3. Today I'm up here because I realized we went about 2 years without economic development director or assistant director, and I think we're kind of losing on that, especially when it comes to creating special programs for small businesses, or even creating programs to work with the college. Like, for instance, we're having a home crisis here where prices are skyrocketing. Well, why not have an economic development director or assistant director full-time who could go out to the college, work out a program to where people can get certified to build homes. And eventually, over time, those people who are certified to build homes working in carpentry and plumbing and electrical will eventually build their own business and be home builders, maybe as big as Lennar. But I think the problem is, without having an economic development director or an assistant to kind of guide you in those decisions about small business programs and working with colleges, then a lot of this stuff, we won't have any, like, I guess, accurate, it's hard to explain, I guess, accurate efficiency analytics, because what we analyze today, as you'll see, I'll give you a different analyzation of it, and you'll look at it a lot different. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, let's move forward to the consent agenda. We will consider approving the regular meeting minutes from November 13th. Nora Navarez has those. Consider approving the necessary corporation disbursement, and consider amending a lease agreement by and between the City of San Angelo Development Corporation and Branded Companies LLC, and authorizing the board president or their designee to execute all necessary documents. Do we have any motion or a second to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Max, Director Puello, and a second by Director Mahaffey. Do we have any questions? Any public comment on the consent agenda? Seeing none, if you will approve, please say aye.
Aye.
If you oppose, say nay. Any abstentions? And it is done. Let's move to the regular agenda. We're going to consider appointing a president, first and second vice president to serve unexpired terms for the City of San Angelo Development Corporation. Presentation by Michael Dane, Interim Director of Economic Development.
Good morning, Michael Dane, Interim Director of Economic Development. Dr. Jones has moved on, and on the basis of that vacancy, our attorney has advised that it is appropriate and necessary for us to conduct an election to fill the officer positions at this time rather than wait for the next regular election cycle. So with that in mind, we think it'd be appropriate for you to have a discussion and make nominations and vote for your officers.
And it would be for like an unexpired term through May, because the bylaws say May is when we hold our annual elections, so
So,
we would have another election in May.
so you could, if you fill a vacant position with one that is with an incumbent which holds another position, you'll need to fill that one also. For example, if you move our first vice president up into the president's chair, we'll need to fill the first vice president, et cetera. So,
Do we have any nominations from the board?
Do we take these as a whole, as a slate, or do you want to do one by one?
I think we can do it however you prefer.
Nora says one by one, please.
Rick Matthews, who's our first vice president, as president to fill the unexpired term until next election.
Is it your desire to go ahead and do the whole slate?
Sure.
Second nomination would be to move Farah up to first vice president, who currently is our second vice president, which now leaves an empty spot for second vice president.
I'd nominate Director Mahaffey to move up into that spot, second vice president.
Do we have any other nominations for any of these seats? I'm sorry, Carlos, you were about to say.
I was just going to second Max's nomination.
All right, let's take the slate as it's been presented, and I'll accept a motion to accept the slate as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Director Spano and a second by Director Mahaffey. Do we have any public comment? Other comments from the board?
Not on this item, no.
So if you will accept this slate as presented, will you say aye?
Aye.
If not, say nay. Any abstentions? And it is done. Thank you for your support, I guess. All right, item B under regular agenda is to consider approving an amount not to exceed $200,000 to allow Galilee CDC to renovate a multifamily project as part of the Affordable Housing Assistance Program using fiscal year 2025 funds. The presentation by, I had to turn the page. I thought it was going to say Schneeman. I was going to have to think fast. Presentation by Bob Salas, who is Director of Neighborhood and Family Services. Bob.
Good morning, Board. Before we get to the item, I'd like to announce that I will be retiring early next month, and Ms. Morgan Chegwooden will be the interim director, and she will be able to answer and address all affordable housing issues. Morgan, you want to stand up? She's right here.
Good morning, Morgan Chegwooden, currently Assistant Director of Neighborhood and Family Services. A pleasure to serve and continue to work with y'all.
Was that a pop test?
Yeah. Say what?
Never mind.
Yeah,
Go right ahead.
she's got a good handle on these programs, so she'll be able to do a fine job. This morning, we have a multifamily project proposal that requires board approval per our recent guidelines. And we have Ms. Stephanie Hamby from Galilee CDC to provide some details.
Morning. All right, so this is kind of a first-time project for us to do this and to present it to you guys. We are looking at, so Galilee with everything is allocated $865,000 a year from the half-cent sales tax. We get admin of $16,750. We are estimating I'm trying to give you the overall of what our goal is to do with this throughout the year. 2 homes, new construction homes, not to exceed 65,000 each, so a total of 130. We're hoping to do at least 75,000 in exterior repairs for eligible homeowners. And then we have the multifamily remodels. So it's an 8-unit apartment building. The funding amount is determined, we're still raising money, grant money for it. We're estimating to need about $200,000 from the COSA DC. So $99,000 is left over from the money that's allocated to us, the $304,865. But we're requesting an additional $101,000 from the rollover amount that is in this account that right now is standing at $284,633. So we're requesting more than the 304 that's normally allocated to us, if it's possible. I want to give you some background on the project. So it is located in Blackshear at 218 West 9th Street. We bought the apartment building in July of 2023. We had a budget, and we have found some things, and the city has come back with some things that they want us to do that far exceeded the budget we had planned. So that is why we're still raising money and stuff. So this is the current building as it sits right now. It houses 8 units. I really loved the original footprint of the building. However, once architects and engineers got involved, we found that it was not going to work. So we have had to completely redesign the inside of this building. This is our parking lot, so we have parking out there. We have completely gutted it because we had to abate all the asbestos in it. So that is all done. So the building is completely gutted. These apartments are going to be geared for young adults, so ages 18 to 30. Because we're trying to proactively keep that age group from becoming homeless or struggling, and rent is expensive here. So our goal is to renovate these homes and open them up to kids who are either coming out of the foster care system, those that are exiting high school but have been housing insecure or couch surfing, and now that they're 18, they're on their own, or those that are just at the community colleges or working and they just can't quite get to that point of income where they can afford their own, the rent in other places. So our goal is to get these done by the end of 2025, open them up. Rent will not exceed $500 a month. And they will be, so we still expect them to pay some rent because we want them to take ownership and be involved in everything else. And our goal is to walk with them to help them kind of see what else they want to do. You know, do they want to go into college? Do they want to get a job somewhere? How can we help them? But not require case management because we don't want them to feel like there's a bunch of strings attached to this apartment building. So we have 4 units on the bottom and 4 units on top. It's just, like I said, it's completely gutted, so it's kind of cool. So here's our budget estimated. Hopefully we have no more surprises or changes. We purchased the building for $280,577.41. The asbestos was $76,457. The parking lot was $65,000. The architects are $48,000. We're estimating labor and materials at $600,000. We have to put a sprinkler and fire system in, which is another one that we were not expecting. Our estimate is $100,000. Hopefully we come in under that. Administration, $65,000, and the new roof and gutter that are on there were $13,050. So we have an estimated project total of about $1.2 million. To date, we have raised $815,750 of this project. We have a couple other grants and stuff outstanding, plus we will continue to write grants and look for money funding to come in before that. If not, Galley will fund it or take the remaining in construction loans to finish it out. We will complete this job, and we will open it up and do exactly what we say we are going to do, regardless if we raise all of our money or not. So we're willing to take on that expense if we need to get it finished. So that is all I have. Any questions?
All right, and your request of the Development Corporation is for $200,000?
Yes, a max. If we raise enough money that we don't need all of that, then we won't request that.
So
But that,
expect us to be your last funder?
yes,
You also mentioned that no resident would ever pay more than $500. Now, is that in perpetuity, or is that
At this point, that's what we're expecting, is to keep them under $500. They still have to pay utilities. They'll have they'll have water and electrical and internet that they're required to pay. But our goal is to fully fund this so that we don't have a construction loan sitting out on this, so that we don't have to raise the rents at all. So barring crazy insurance rates or anything like that, our goal is to keep it under $500 a month. And they're single occupancy, so they're small apartments, so they cannot have like families in there or anything else.
Rick, could I follow up on that,
Sure,
please?
please.
Can we make that a commitment, subject to reconsideration by the board? If you do run into that situation, I know that commercial type or large facility insurance has been a real challenge for organizations across the community in recent years. So that's a legitimate concern, and I would say maybe the $500 commitment, subject to a revisit in a subsequent year for the board's consideration.
I'd be more comfortable with that, because to be able to say 350 years from now, we're still charging $500 because we made that commitment today might be a mistake.
And I do want to add that my staff will monitor to ensure that the residents, the tenants are in fact income eligible, because that is one of the requirements for the program. So.
Yes, and almost all of our funders require, I don't know, 4 years of reporting at least on, 4 years of reporting at least on this project. So we can give updates for as long as we own this building as to where we are and everything, so.
Do we have any other board comment or questions?
I love the idea and the concept and obviously the intent of what you're trying to accomplish. As a realtor, I would say that I'm kind of concerned about those numbers. I think 1.28 million, 1.2 million for an 8-unit complex anywhere in town is very, very high. If you were my client, I would say you'll never be able to sell it for what you're going to have in it, at least not for a very long time. I think that's a huge investment. At about, if you divide it by unit, that's $150,000 per unit, for the 8. So I would say from an investment perspective, I mean, you might be in it too deep already with the purchase and so forth, but I think the numbers are kind of staggering. I think from an investment, you might be better off buying a lot and building it somewhere else, or building 8 homes almost. I mean, I think that's a lot of money for just one building.
It is, and it has, like I said, exceeded our original budget by about $300,000. So, but we'll own it forever. Our goal is, since we're having funders and foundations invest in it, then, it's not going anywhere necessarily, since we've already bought it and done all the asbestos and raised the money. It's one of those we feel like we have to keep moving forward rather than, it's a need in the community, so I think it is a high dollar value, though. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm almost, again, just from an investment perspective, would be wondering if you'd be better off maybe selling it and recouping what you can and pursuing the project in another location or another building.
I don't believe we can sell it for what we've put in it already.
You're
So
already in the negative.
we've raised the money, so we're not really in the negative.
No, I get it, but if what you've got in it is what I'm saying.
So we've bought the building, put the parking lot in, done the asbestos and the roof already, so that is all already invested, and the architects are probably 3 months into this project as well, so.
Right. So, my internet is acting up, so I can't pull it up. But go back to that screen if you can, just for a second, when it has the numbers.
Which one?
Yeah, that, I guess, yeah, so you purchased it for 280, so 76, so say 76 and 65, that's another 130, plus the 280, that's what, 410, another architect, 450, so you're in it at this point for 450, is that correct?
Roughly, yeah.
Other costs have been incurred, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
plus all the time to write all the grants and everything else, but,
yeah.
so, which is why, again, our goal is to keep it completely funded by foundations and grants and stuff. We're hoping some of those are a little lower than they are. When we will come in under budget, that would be great.
Would you go back to the screen that shows what investment you've already had promised?
So Tom Green County, through ARPA funds, has put in $300,000. We have an anonymous donor that put in $175,000. The Health Foundation for $150,000. The Area Foundation, $90,750. The Tucker Foundation. So those are all local foundations. So they're all, invested in this project as well. And then we have probably 2 or 3 other ones that we're waiting on.
Any other questions or comments? Are we expected to take action on this today?
If the board chooses to do so, but just to let you know, Rick, I do have a public comment.
All right. Well, then we will take public comment. Have you have any more that you would like to share with us today?
No, that's it.
All right.
Thank
We'll
you.
accept public comment on this project.
Okay, public comment, Jamal Shumpert, single member, District 3.
Jamal Shumpert, single member, District 3. I would say I'm pretty much in favor of this project. I didn't know as much about it because the documents didn't list everything she was going to say. One thing I would probably suggest her is I understand this type of thing she's doing. I would put it on a 30-year market rate rent. So in 30 years, it would have paid the $1.3 almost $1 million. So it might be somewhere around maybe $650 a month. But according to what I did, she's going to be making about $50,000 a year, maybe $5,000 to $8,000 she could put back into the building and make it last more than 30 years. I understand why y'all couldn't understand it because you see one side of the business, which is the for-profit. But on the nonprofit side, we need program income. And that's exactly what she's going to do with that extra $40,000 that she doesn't put back into the building, to go out and build other buildings or to go get other buildings that way so that she doesn't have to go up under loans and be, raising rents because the loans are not be able to offer a program because she can't meet the 80% or 60% AMI. That's what they need. They need program income. So I would be in favor of this. But from a different angle, so you understand, there'll be 8 individuals probably replacing 3 families that could have got full homes. That's where I said, are we really helping ourselves or are we shooting ourselves in the foot? You ask yourself 8 homeless people versus, 3 affordable houses built with the $60,000 gap financing and all that. So it's almost like a circular death we're in. Maybe speaking to city council or reviewing the ballot to increase how much we actually put towards this, or doing what Mr. Salas mentioned about a year ago. He mentioned flipping homes, buying and flipping them. That actually doesn't seem like a bad idea if you had a mortgage loan originator's license. So with an MLO license, I think you may get out of this death spend at $335,000. But at $335,000, man, that's an extremely small budget to do some work with. But yeah, I'll be in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment? Any more comment or question from the board?
I'm just curious, again, just as a number cruncher, what's the square footage of that building? What would it all be when it's all said and done?
I want to say it's a total of 4,500 square feet. So about 2,200-ish on both the main floor and the top floor. One unit is ADA compliant, and the rest are all, like I said, single individual units.
Okay, so if, I'm just curious, I don't know, I know on the new construction side, if it was a single-family home, they're averaging about 200 a square foot. So 200 square foot at 4,500 gets you to about 900,000. So almost might be better off, again, plus the cost of the lot, but if you found the lot, build something, 4,500 square feet, you'd be in it for a little less. But the numbers get a little closer when you look at it that way.
Yeah, and we're still building new construction homes. We're not
Right.
stopping any of that. This is just an additional project that we are taking on. And our board is behind it and very excited for it as well.
Do you know how many square foot per unit?
They vary. The biggest one, I think, is 420. The smallest one is 322. So they're about the same size except for that one unit. So, but we're excited for it because I think the ripple effect of 8 people, but those 8 people will move out, 8 more people will move in. And since we're going to own it for as long as we're in existence, then it'll serve a lot of people.
Any other comment or questions?
Just trying to get clarification. Can we go back to the very first slide with the carryover and the, appreciate it.
No worries. There you go. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
The 99,000 from this year, is this year, you're expecting 2025 or the 2024?
It's the year we're in now with the cities.
So the October through September,
Yes, this one. So the
Fiscal
99,000 is what's left over of the 304,865 if we do 75,000 in neighborhood revitalization and 130 in the 2 new construction homes.
So in essence, it's not additional money, it's just allocation of the money that's already allocated from the
Well,
304?
the 101,000 that finishes the 200 is the request of the rollover funds, which are not allocated to Galilee CDC, so automatically. So 99 is part of the original allocation, and 101 would come out of the rollover funds, is what we're requesting.
But it's money
So-
that's already allocated for this program or for the,
Yeah.
for the ballot?
Yes, the rollover funds are already allocated per the ballot. I think we intended for at least this first year for the rollover that we currently have, that Bob could use that in case, the transactions closed before we did this agreement with Galilee. If something came up where we had to repurchase one of those homes, that money could be utilized for that. But it's also y'all could allocate it for this project as well. And the agreement does say that future carryovers after we sign the agreement, they could utilize. It was just for this 1 year that we kind of thought, we may need that funding. But, Bob would have a better handle on the ones that occurred before this agreement, so.
so the 284 is dedicated to housing. It wouldn't encumber any of our other projects under any other category.
Yes, I think.
I was
The
going to say that.
rollover is from the ballot for affordable housing projects. So that is authorized for that.
We don't, unless something comes up, we had planned on transferring those funds over to Galilee for the AHAP program, to include the rehabs, new construction, and this project as well. So I don't foresee any tie-ups with those funds, so we should be able to release them to Galilee by end of the year.
So with the agreement that we had signed a couple of meetings ago, maybe I'm thinking incorrectly, but was there a stipulation as to how much rollover would be allowed?
This is just for 1 year.
Right.
The only thing that we keep is a bit of that 30,000 admin, because we'll continue doing some administrative oversight through some of the staff. But the rest rolls over to Galilee for their use.
So Steve, we didn't stipulate an amount. It just says Galilee may utilize unspent AHAP funding from a prior year that's carried over into a new year following the effective date of this agreement. So it was anticipated any carryovers after the agreement, they would be able to utilize. But before the amount we had, that would stay with Bob's group. But again, I think under the AHAP program, y'all can still authorize that. I guess I just thought we may need it in case something comes up, but.
I will tell you that Galilee is great at spending money, so I don't participate in any other rollover money, except what we recapture if someone sells their home. Whatever is still in there that is owed back to the city, that goes into those rollover funds as well, I believe. So any recapture if someone moves, that's, will go in there as well. But other than that, I would assume we will spend all 304,000 every year.
I just want to make sure we were within our contract.
I hear Director Pueyo's concerns. Let me ask you, do you think they would be able to recoup the money they've already got in it by selling it? Is this condition, in condition to earn that kind of money back?
Well, not at this kind of rent, but,
No,
but
I mean,
even if, yeah,
if
but.
they were to sell the property
And cut
and
their
go
losses.
somewhere
Right.
else.
I mean, that's kind of, again, it's kind of where I'm at, just from a real estate perspective. If you were my client and we were looking at, go or no go, do we continue to put money in it, or do we cut our losses and find another location? If you were an investor, obviously it's different perspective and different cause, and I'm on board with the cause. So let me just make that clear. But I've had investors, throw kind of good money after bad, if you will, so to speak, and I'm struggling with having a property that's going to be worth, or we're going to be in it for $1.2 million. And I think if you were to have a lender or an appraiser, I would, I'd be shocked if we could get an appraiser to make that property, once it's all done, be worth what you all have in it. And so that's really my concern. So to your point, that is kind of where my head was going with the preliminary questions. If you're in it for, let's say hypothetically $400,000 that's spent on it so far, would you be better off, selling it to maybe an investor or a builder or somebody that could, finish it? Say you recoup half that money, $200,000 plus the money that's been raised, plus maybe money that Coastal DC could contribute, and find another property, maybe a bigger property that you could have more units, or so forth. Would that be a better, return? Again, if you ever wanted to sell the building and recapture that for other use, I think you'd be in the hole in the future. So maybe cutting the losses now and finding another location, even maybe starting from scratch, could be just another angle, I guess, to consider.
I think, if I may, the only issue you have is when you have the Health Foundation or you have other foundations who are granting funds for this particular project, they're conditioned on this particular project. So some have not been paid
Right.
until certain steps are made. So I think it, from Galilee's perspective, puts them in a bad light with a foundation if they're requesting grants for this particular project and selling a property after private funds or public funds have been allocated for a certain project does not bode well for them. And I am on the Health Foundation, so this is a project that we did allocate funds to. And I don't remember how we stipulated this one exactly, but they are conditional at points, conditioned on raising certain funds and completing the project.
Yeah.
So from a investor standpoint, you are correct, but from a foundation and funding project or public service project, I think we have to look at it from a different perspective. That would be my only response.
I get it. I guess, just the perspective I'm looking at is, obviously, being on the board, we have to be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. And I think, any of the foundations that are involved, those monies were raised, whether, privately or, through fundraisers and so forth. So I would think those would also require some kind of stewardship that just, again, the intent, I'm all on board, and I think the cause, all of that. I just think, just because it's quote unquote free money from other sources doesn't mean that it's a good investment. and I think we have a responsibility. I mean, obviously, those boards that made those grants have a responsibility to their members and investors and so forth. I think we do as well. So I would, excuse me, still be, excuse me, just still struggle with the total investment that it was going to come out to, given the square footage, given the the logistics of it. And I think just again is if you were my client and you were going to ask if you were going to spend, should I spend more money and finish this or cut my losses and move on to the next project, I probably would encourage you to consider cutting your losses on this project and looking for another, taking that money you get plus monies that were raised, hopefully going back and say, hey, we're scratching this project because it's not a good investment potentially, and we're going to look for another one and hopefully could go back to those organizations and get those funds that were allocated for a different project or similar. Just I would again at this point explore those options. You know what I mean? That's just my recommendation.
How long have you been working on this particular piece of property?
Since we bought it in July of 2023.
So I get your pain of all that work and all that money and all that effort put into one piece of property, and now you're just going to take our advice and cut loose and go find something else. I get that. I get your pain there. I also weigh the fact that, to your point, we're not in the for-profit business. And I put more weight on, is it the right thing to do at the right moment? And I tend to say that, yes, it's the right thing to do at the right moment. And are we spending more than maybe we could have? Probably. But to weigh the bet that we're going to find another piece of property or another empty lot where we can build something from scratch and start all over again, I'm not sure that that's a good use of our labor and our money either. So I land on approving this project rather than starting completely over. That's where I am.
Rick,
Yes.
if I could,
Yes.
in government, in the government industry, sometimes we create our own dilemmas, but sometimes we're left with dilemmas which are not suitable for market solutions. And the objectives that this initiative serves are more than just creating value from an investor standpoint. In this case, as one of the investors, our objectives include providing affordable housing for at-risk populations and affecting in a positive way neighborhoods which are at risk. This is a consistent theme with Galilee, and they've been successful at it. If we were to measure previous investments against the market, we've been very fortunate to have a positive experience on the single-family side. As we discussed months ago, some of the situations we were facing, we were fortunate to find that investments we had made had fared well in the market. In this case, though, the customer is the surrounding neighborhood and those clients, in addition to that core real estate philosophy. And so I think that's important. I absolutely think we cannot discount the measure that Max brings. It keeps us as close as we can be to a justifiable kind of investment. But the discussion about other nonprofits making investments and honoring those, moving that forward, hopefully affecting the neighborhood in a positive way, I think it's indisputable that the efforts over the last 20 years through various funding sources to affect the Blackshear area have been very positive. And you can measure that in taxable value. And so we hope for a similar kind of impact here, as well as serving a very at-risk segment of the population. And of course, Max's words resonate with me because I'm about that financial impact, but this one serves more than just financial impact, and it's important, I think, to keep that in mind.
Because it is an investment in people and in the neighborhood, I would be for continuing or honoring this request.
Yeah, I would agree, and I respect Max's fiduciary responsibility. I'm kind of the same way. But I agree with Michael as well. It's hard to quantify all the positive variables that are going into this. And to me, $101,000 investment into something like this for the grand scheme of, what'd you say, what was the total dollar amount?
Probably 1.2 million.
1.2. So we have a small stake in this. There's a lot of other folks out there that deem this as a very viable project. And so for that, I agree with Carlos. I'm in on this. I think that this is a great project. I think we have a great partner that will monitor this and watch over this, and so I'm willing to take a chance on it. So for that, I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, I have a motion from Director Mahaffey. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Director Spano. Is there any public comment on this? We've already heard the public comment, haven't we? Yeah. Is there any other board discussion? All right, if you will approve let me see if I can read it here. Approve the amount not to exceed $200,000 to allow Galilee CDC to renovate a multifamily project as part of the Affordable Housing Assistance Program using fiscal year 2025 funds. Will you say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
I have 3 ayes. Do I have a nay?
Nay.
I have 1 nay. And any abstentions? So it is passed. Thank you for your effort today, gentlemen. All right. Continuing with the regular agenda, a public hearing regarding COSA DC approval of professional services agreement with Park Hill, Smith, and Cooper in a sum not to exceed $275,000 to perform professional engineering and design services for the preparation of engineering plans and technical specs for infrastructure improvements in Phase 2 of the San Angelo Business and Industrial Project, or rather Park, a project authorized under Chapters 501 and 505 of the Development Corporation Act for infrastructure improvements necessary for the development of a portion of the San Angelo Business and Industrial Park. Presentation by Michael Dane in place of Robert Schneeman.
Yes, sir. I'm going to attempt to substitute I am not a substitute for Bob, but
Understood.
I'll attempt to fill in and satisfy the requirements of the presentation. This is a project that you have previously considered and approved. This item on the agenda today has to do with executing a required public hearing. So rather than go through all the details of the proposed and approved project, we simply need to conduct a public hearing on the item. However, if you have questions, I'll attempt to answer them.
Are there any questions, comments, concerns from the board? Any public comment? All right, no action is needed here for a public hearing, am I correct?
Do we need to make the words open public hearing, close public? If you would state that we want to open the public hearing,
All right,
there's no comment, we'll close the public hearing.
we want to open the public hearing. Is there any comment?
Yep.
All right, public hearing is closed at 9:16. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate your direction. Public hearing regarding an economic development incentive agreement is the next agenda item with Skyline Aviation in the amount of $1 million for, that's a lot of zeros. I couldn't, Wasn't sure where we put the comma. For creation of an aviation mechanics school in partnership with Howard College, a project authorized under chapters 501 and 505 of the Texas Development Corporation Act, necessary to promote economic development and expand business enterprises which create or retain primary jobs. And again, Michael Dane stays at the podium.
Good morning. This is the same, the objective of this item is the same as the previous item. This is a project that the board has previously considered and approved. This agenda item is simply to conduct a public hearing on the item. And I will again attempt to answer questions that you have. Otherwise, it is simply the public hearing.
All right, so we open the public hearing at 9:17 for this project. Do we have any public comment?
Yes, sir.
All
Jamal
right.
Shumpert, single member District 3.
Jamal Shumpert, single member District 3. About this, when I was looking over the numbers, and looking at the videos, it said that we had 15 openings for mechanics, but they're placing about 104 spots over the next 4 years, and we only have 5% projected growth. So when I actually looked at it from their perspective, I think this program does help them out a lot more than anyone else, so that they have mechanics to work on their flight school training. The only thing I would question about this is the education component of it, because some of these certifications they receive are also certified by FAA. So like if the school wasn't legitimate, you'll have a low pass rate for actual certified FAA certified mechanics, which could pose a problem. But outside of that, with the extra mechanics that'll grow from this program, I don't think with the motion we got over there at the airport that we're going to use all of them. The good thing about that is it becomes a quality of life job after that. They could leave San Angelo, go to Dallas. More than likely, they're going to have families who they send money back to. So all in all, I guess it is a pretty good project I'd be in favor of. But I did want you to kind of look at both perspectives of how this project works so that you really, really get a understanding of how beneficial it will be for the community. Because I will say it will be beneficial. It might not do exactly what they say it'll do, but it'll probably do more. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jamal. Any other comment from the board? Concerns, questions?
I will say, I was not here to vote at the last meeting, unfortunately, but I am in great support of this project. I think this is a great project and appreciate you guys voting to support it.
All right, so we will close public hearing at 9:19. Thank you for your time and your work on this. We will now move into closed session, executive session under the provision of Government Code Title V, Open Government Ethics, Subtitle A, Open Government, Chapter 551, Open Meetings, Subchapter D, exceptions to requirement that meetings be open under the following sections. Section 551.072, deliberations about real property regarding approximately 316 acres out of Sarah R. Robertson Survey number 78. We are now in closed session at 9:20 a.m. To open session with consideration and possible action of items discussed in closed action in session if needed, and there being none, we'll move to B, the announcement and consideration of future agenda items. Are there any to come from this body? All right. Point 8 is adjournment, so at this time we will adjourn this meeting and we will next meet on our regular date in January. Thank you for your time. We are adjourned.
Great job, Mr. President.